The iPhone 13 mini is one of my favorite devices of all time. So while its bigger siblings seem to get most of the attention, let's not forget that the best kinds of iPhones are the mini ones. So how has the brand new iPhone 13 mini held up after 1 week of use? Let's find out. What's up everyone, I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. Quick note before we begin today's video, much like the iPhone 13 Pro Max, Apple did let me borrow a 13 mini, which you have seen in previous videos. However, this specific 13 mini that I've got today is my own personal phone that I bought with my own money. And if you are like some kind of regularly adjusted person and you don't spend your life endlessly browsing the internet for consumer technology, kind of hurt myself with that sentence there. Let's quickly cover the specs and ordering options so we can all understand the cost and the technology that we're talking about today. The iPhone 13 mini, much like the 12 mini before it, is actually the cheapest iPhone 13 that you can buy. The entry-level model will run you $699 or 63% of an iPhone 13 Pro Max. I actually do own the base model. For this money, you'll get a choice of 5 colors: pink, blue, midnight, starlight, and product red. Personally, I do really like how this Starlight model looks. You'll also get 128 gigabytes of storage, a 5.4-inch Super Retina XDR display, the brand new 6-core A15 processor, a dual camera array, including a very serious upgrade in the main wide-angle camera, a 5G LTE connection, and a reported 13 hours of battery life. If you do need more storage than what the base model offers, you do get 2 upgrade options of 256 gigabyte and 512 gigabyte, which will run you $799 and $999 respectively. Okay, now that we've all gotten on the proper page in our iPhone mini books, let's talk about what I've liked and what I've disliked over the past week. As the iPhone 13 Pro Max started out with the likes, sorry, mini buddy, you're getting roasted first. I guess. Kinda. I guess we'll start with the negatives, but honestly, there isn't that much that I dislike about the 13 mini. I still very much dislike Lightning connectors and wish that in the future Apple can transition its entire mobile catalog over to USB-C. I have gotten a lot of comments from some folks saying that USB-C is not the end-all be-all, and sure, nothing is perfect, but if they can figure out how to make it work for their very expensive iPad Pros and lower-level iPad Minis, I'm absolutely sure a way could be developed to make it work for the iPhones too. But besides that, what else is there to dislike? If you are getting the mini, you know that you are getting a smaller phone. So the size is an issue, the power isn't an issue, and not much was held back from the camera. Really, I guess the only thing missing from this that I wish they had included, but I never actually really use, is Apple ProRAW for photos. Now this is a fantastic photography format that Apple does save for its higher end Pro line. For me, that's probably the one thing I regret the mini not having, because I know it could do it, because the 12 Pro and Pro Max could do ProRAW, and they had the A14 processor, whereas the A15 processor should be able to handle that. So if there isn't that much that I disliked, what are all the things that I've liked? Well, it's a lot actually, because this continues to be my favorite phone in the iPhone 13 lineup. And as a really quick, funny anecdote, hold on one second. I know this is called the mini, and we all think this is a small phone now, but for comparison, this is the iPhone 4S, which was my dream phone back in the day. And this was at one point the Apple flagship phone. Look at this thing. It's even smaller with way less screen real estate. I don't think we've actually all wrapped our heads around how big phones have gotten these days. You can't really talk about the positives of this phone without starting off with that size. I love the size of this phone. It perfectly fits in my hand. And while yes, it is the smallest iPhone 13, it still has a ton of screen real estate. I would never consider or call myself a minimalist. I believe in having all the tools needed for a job on hand and not modifying the job to work with a set amount of tools. But I like tech that is small and then gets out of my way. For like a good example of that, have you ever seen Ocean's 11? The Brad Pitt and George Clooney heist movie? So my feelings on tech can be summed up with Brad Pitt's quote to Matt Damon. He's gotta like you and then forget about you the second you leave his sight. In the movie, this is referencing Matt Damon doing some fancy social engineering on Andy Garcia, but it perfectly illustrates what I want out of my personal technology. I want to absolutely enjoy using it, but when I'm done, I don't want it to occupy my thoughts at all. The 13 Pro Max, it's always in your thoughts. It's heavy enough and dense enough that when it's in a pocket, you know it's in there. The bigger iPads are the same way, but for tablets. I love that I can use the 13 mini and I put it in a pocket and literally not know it's there until I need it again. I will be so heartbroken if there isn't a 14 mini for this specific reason. The next thing that I've really liked is the massive upgrade to the camera system. Some folks have been calling the 13 lineup a very small upgrade overall, and for the regular iPhones, I would wholly disagree. One of the absolute best advancements of the iPhone 12 Pro Max was that gigantic censored main camera. It's an absolute stunning camera, not just for phones, but it's a stunning camera, period. Great image quality, great stabilization, great aperture. It's just great all around. Well, you get that camera on the 13 mini this year. I would go so far as to say that the iPhone 13 mini is the final nail in the coffin of point and shoot cameras. This is the perfect dad family camera, period. It's unobtrusive, it will take great photos, and it costs less than some other actual point and shoot alternatives. Plus, if you are into video, this also gets the new cinematic mode, which I am quite taken with. Is it perfect? No, absolutely not. You can see here when I zoom in, there are absolutely edge blurring issues, and it's very easy to tell on high quality displays that it's digitally over sharpened. But I would bet a boatload of money that only camera geeks like me would ever notice or least of all care. This camera is for real. And much like the 13 Pro Max, it's not only good outside, but it's also really good inside. We've seen that already in my own videos, how good this looks under studio lights. But my friend Patrick did a whole video shot on his 13 mini, and no kidding, I did not know that he was only using that phone both for video and the audio until he specifically pointed it out in his video. Links in the description. When you're done watching this, absolutely go check that video out. I do not think it's hyperbole in the slightest to call this one of the best cameras ever made. You cannot beat the 13 mini for priced performance if you want a camera that's always with you. I could gush about this for all day long. I could gush about this much longer, but we'll keep this video a-moving. The next thing that I've really liked is the overall upgrade to battery life. And this is, if we're talking about practical things that really matter, this is probably the most important update over the past year to me personally, because it was exactly the battery life that made me need to use the 12 Pro Max instead of my preferred 12 mini. That's not to say that the 13 mini has 12 Pro Max levels of battery. Apple claims a 1.5 hour increase over the 12 mini, and you know what? That's probably enough. I say probably because internally, I still feel that I need to ration the phone so I can get all day battery life, but in reality, I'm waking up at 6 a.m., using the phone normally, and then I go to bed around 10 p.m. and I've consistently had about 20% life left. I don't know what else I need to prove to myself that it's good enough, but after the 12 mini, it will probably take some time for me to relax on this. Objectively, from the numbers I've seen, this extra time is 100% the killer feature of the 13 mini, and I think this should go a long way towards helping folks use this phone primarily. I get a lot of comments from you asking why I can't just charge throughout the day, and yes, absolutely I could do that 95% of the time. But in my day job, sometimes I don't have that opportunity, and I need a phone that will get me through a full day, no questions asked. But the trick of that is, you never know when one of those days is going to show up. So your phone has to have good battery life at all times, or you carry around the MagSafe battery just in case. I do think that by the time we get to the 1 month later video, I will have relaxed, and this will be my main phone because of these updates. We mentioned this a little bit in the size discussion, but I do continue to like the screen of the Mini. No, it doesn't have the Pro Motion found in the larger Pro phones, and yes, it's capped at 60 Hz. But I think that's just about right. The name of the game for me is battery life, and it's not really whatever cutting edge technology can get crammed into a phone. So that we still get such a vibrant screen that has a 2,000,000:1 contrast ratio and can go to 800 nits of brightness, I consider that to be a win. And personally, something about these small displays makes them look even better to me than the bigger ones. I know this has technically a slightly higher pixel per inch count than the 13 regular, but it's not that much. This screen just looks fantastic. I also like the power, but I like it for different reasons than, wow, this thing is fast. I like that this phone is the cheapest of the 13 lineup and still gets most of the same capabilities as the top of the line. No, we won't get ProRes video recording or the super smooth screen refreshing, but software-wise, you aren't really locked out of anything, even though you are missing a GPU core. So here, in use, I haven't really noticed a difference between the higher-end GPU on my iPhone 13 Pro Max and the lower end GPU in the iPhone 13 mini. So you may be missing ProRAW, but that's really the only thing. And the last major thing that I've really liked about the iPhone 13 mini is the base model upgrade in storage. The 12 series came with 64 gigabytes of storage as standard, and that was kind of a hard sell in 2020. Files are getting bigger, phones are becoming more of people's only computers. I don't even own a 64 gigabyte SD card anymore because that's too small. I like that this year, instead of only offering that big 1 terabyte drive on the highest end, they also bumped us up to 128 gigabyte base here. And I think that's the perfect amount of space for a phone. I personally don't use any cloud backup, and I rarely clean up my files, and I've only gotten about 44 gigabytes of use space on this phone. Obviously the lion's share of that being photos. I copied everything over from my 12, which was copied over from my 11, which was copied over from my XR. I'm never going to use 120 gigabytes. This feels like the first time in a really long time that I can, without any reservation, say, yes, the base model is all you need, unless you need to go crazy with hours-long videos or, I don't know, use the iPhone as like some kind of secure, huge file storage locker. But at the end of the day, so what, right? Do I really like the iPhone 13 mini? Yes, absolutely. Do I think this is a substantial upgrade over last year's model? Again, yes, absolutely. But here's where the rubber meets the road, team. Would I recommend you upgrade to this over the 12 mini? Yes, absolutely. And what's funny, I don't think that about the rest of the iPhone 13 lineup. This is the specific iPhone that I think has been upgraded the absolute most and is far and away better than its predecessor. Way better battery life, way better camera, way better storage, better colors, better everything. This is the biggest upgrade in all of the iPhone 13 lineup, and I have zero reservations recommending it if you've been considering one. I love this phone, and this will be my personal phone going forward this year. I will keep the Pro Max on standby, just as an emergency, just in case emergency of battery. And if you like this video and you are now considering the brand new iPhone 13 mini, here's a link to my video covering all of my favorite accessories for this tiny yet powerful device, and you can find it by clicking right here. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.